As they say, the devil is in the details. Terms and conditions in reference to the human experience. Let's talk about it. Well, hello. Hi. I don't know what I'm doing. Apparently. Hello and welcome to the Tequila Hour. My name is Amanda. Yes, recording this on a different day, trying to get used to my new recording schedule. I was going to say, I don't know what the word schedule is, the word I'm looking for. And yeah, I just want to talk about, I don't know what I talk about. I've lost my words. No, it's been, Let's do some admin first, and then that might actually explain a little bit about what's going on in my mind. Don't know if that helped. If you've never played along before, hi, my name is Amanda. This is the Tequila Hour. I am in Australia, New South Wales, in the secret location, which I actually divulged pretty much now in 2 episodes. So if you have been listening intently, you would actually know where the secret, if you know me in my everyday life, you'd also know where that secret location is. So it's probably not that secret. But anyway, hi. Let's do some admin, shall we? First of all, no, I'm not drinking tequila today. I know it's like, what? Yeah, I know. No, I'm not drinking champagne either. I'm drinking gin. The clean drink, the easy to go to drink, the drink that every girl should drink. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying now. But anyway, yes, I'm drinking gin and sugar-free solo. No, I'm not actually drinking an energy drink. What the fuck? Literally had a Monster before, so I'm like, maybe I should just ease up there, buttercup, and not scull another one so close together unless I want to have a heart attack. I don't want to do that. So let's do some admin first. Like I said, not drinking tequila, so I'll just pause for a second. If you like to, while listening to my sweet angelic voice, you need to enhance the experience or forget the experience. I don't know, whichever way you want to roll. Yeah, grab yourself a drink, grab yourself a snack, just relax. Really, that's just me. I'm just chewing the fat here. No, I'm not literally. Yeah, I'm just talking shit and talking about what's on my mind. And I really want to talk about conditions of use. Now, I had this title in, I'll give you a picture. On my phone, I have the Notes app. A lot of people do. This is not new, by the way. I think I've explained the process before, perhaps in one podcast episode, where, something will tickle the ivories. Tickle my fancy. A word, a picture, a building, a structure, a tree, someone, I don't know, someone's facial expression, whatever. Something will create a spark of inspiration in my gigantic mind. Seriously, in my mind. And hence I have notes open pretty much, or readily available on my phone when I do have access to my phone, because there is periods throughout the day if I'm working, I don't want to use my phone. And now I'm getting into semantics. That, yes, I will write hence spark down so I remember it for future episodes. So sometimes literally can be an hour before I record a podcast. Sometimes it can be weeks before. So I don't know. I can't remember why this title came up. I think it was around some of the similar feelings that I've been experiencing this week. So we'll touch on that. But to say that, yeah, it's time to talk about it. And I want to talk about it not in terms of products and services, which most people would probably think that's what I'm referring to. No. I'm actually referring to human relationships. And I've never really, I think this idea or this podcast idea came to me in regards to either a particular conversation or a particular interaction I had. And I was thinking to myself, where or why, well, I know why we don't have conditions of use in reference to human beings, but I'm sure somewhere in fictional novel land, maybe someone has written this premise. It wouldn't surprise me where, and I don't think it was in Brave New World, if you know, you know, but where, you know, that contract between people and terms of use or conditions of use applies, which I don't know, but that's not where I got the idea from. So that's what I really want to talk about it today. I want to give you an understanding what it means, as in conditions of use. And then I want to, like I said, apply it to probably, you know, maybe a good example would be the relationship with your other half. May that be your partner, may that be your husband or wife. You could apply it to children, you could apply it to your boss. I don't know, that's up to you, but that's what I want to talk about today. But first, like I said, I'll give you a bit of a recap. First of all, I'm in a good headspace. Let's not get carried away with my own shit. Yeah, it's where I am very mindful at the moment. I feel hypersensitive in the sense of, just very in touch with my emotions, shall we say. And for me, it's not one particular thing. I think there's some interactions that I've had in the last week. And this is the thing I found, and so perhaps maybe I need to explore this, expand out greater than what I'm thinking out loud now, where it's, you know, I will say be or feel evenly keeled for a period of time, and then yes, there's a moment or moments of what I would deem emotional disbalance. I don't even know if that's a word, but I've just made it up. It's not that dire. It's more that for someone like myself who constantly is exploring their own learning and development, so I'm very acutely aware of my changing feelings and thoughts and emotions. And for me, as someone who, which I've discussed, overanalyzes, overthinks, and all that kind of good shit, separate to any of the other things that I have going on in my life, that, I tend to go, I have a thought or a feeling or whatever, and sometimes it's fleeting and sometimes it's a week long or 2 weeks long. This week has been one of those weeks, or in the last week, where there has been a few, I know triggers sounds, again, it's not that dramatic, but that's the word that comes to mind, triggers that will then create food for thought, shall we say, for someone, like I said, who is working on themselves in regards to my ultimate goal, which is to be at peace. Really, that's what it's about at the moment. There is times where that self-reflection is increasing and is being explored, and then what that feels like and coming out the other side. So it aligns with a lot of things. It aligns with the relationships with the people that I am close to. It aligns with the people I work with. it aligns with my everyday life. So there will always be, and for anyone who's listening, I'm sure you'd have to agree, there's always triggers if you are on this type of path where, it's an open path, it's an open-hearted path, it's a spiritual path, it's a learning and growing? No, learning and growing, thank you, experience that, this is going to come up more and more for you to then explore. Basically, it might be something you don't want to explore and you park it in your library, or it might be something that you can't ignore anymore and you just want to move through those particular thoughts and feelings that come up for you and then, come out the other side. That's what has been happening, long-winded, has been happening more and more increasingly. I don't know if it's the full moon. I'm blaming the moon. I don't want to blame the moon. The blood moon, the eclipse. If you follow astrology, you'd probably say it was. You would probably say, and you know that I do, it's all intertwined. The prison portal. God damn, the prison portal. You could say it's all that. It's not that. Yes, there could be an influence. Obviously, you know how much I'm intrigued by energy and quantum mechanics, and physics and all that kind of good stuff. So it doesn't surprise me. But yeah, it's not the moon. It's me increasingly becoming aware and wanting to be more aware of being in myself and, being present and being open and, just not shying away from feelings where once upon a time I would either ignore them or, distract myself or eat them away or drink them away. That's pretty much the simple explanation. It's now where I will take time to think, well, why am I thinking this way? Or even to the point of example, like I can give you, and I'm not going to tell you who or what or why, but to say that I was angry, and I don't think I've had a whole podcast about anger as a feeling and what that feels like and as a thought, true or not. It's something I'm very uncomfortable with. So when I feel angry, it is an emotion that really does unsettle me, and therefore now in my present state of mind where if anger is prominent, I really do take grace and time to think, well, why do I feel angry? And what does that feel like? And moving through those emotion or that emotion and any attached emotions with that, and then, coming out at the other side of that. So that has been happening on an increasing nature. Not that I've been angry. I've been angry. I've been angry. No, not that anger is the only emotion that I've been feeling. Angry. That's cute. That I've been feeling lately, but it's been in the last couple of days. So yeah, it's something actually now again where it just. This is another thing. I need to give myself some grace in going, I'm not going to solve where all these things are coming from in a matter of seconds. They take time. They usually do take several days, and there can be a moment or moments where I'm just basically mind fucking myself trying to work it out. Probably should not explore that right now. But yes, grace is the word that comes to mind, to just be mindful that, maybe you just need to sit in the feeling or thoughts and it will come and flow and you'll work it out if you need to work it out and if that's what you want to do. So, that's a little bit what's been happening for me. It all kind of made sense actually the other day where on Facebook, I had and I'll give you a bit of a picture so you know where I'm coming from. I'm just going to have a quick sip of my drink for 1 second. So in the meantime, I play some music. That was weird. Ghost files. I had to do another ghost podcast anyway. Side note. Are you drunk yet? You're like, fuck. No. Yes. So where was this coming from? Not that this came from this place, but once I saw this particular post on the back end of me sitting in some thoughts around anger, angy, as I now term it, that, yeah, it kind of made sense actually where this might, not that where it came from, but yeah, it's, what do you say? It's not, I don't know if you want to call it an alignment, a cyclic moment of revisiting a place and a time to then understand some of the emotions that you were going through. I would say that was a bit what was going on in the last couple of days. But I saw the post on Facebook where it was, the reminder post. So if you post something, picture or video or something, Facebook in its wisdom, whatever, that's not what it is actually, by the way, it will push reminders of time that once was, shall we say. Now, obviously, if you went on a holiday and you had a wonderful time and it was awesome, and then Facebook pushes that to you 2 years or 5 years later, and then you get that message and you're like, and you get the feels and it's all good. Sometimes, though, there is things that you post and you mightn't be particularly forthcoming, shall we say, in regards to the time period and what's happening, that it's just a picture or an image or a video. So this image was two pictures were from 2 years ago. And when they came up at the time, I knew instantly why. Look, I don't think Facebook reads my mind, but it was very interesting that it came up at around the same time that a lot of these thoughts were happening in my mind, which just, synergy seemed to happen. So if you know, you know. So yes, that's what happened at the time when I saw the memories. I think that's what the Facebook calls it, memories. I couldn't even respond. That's how visceral the feeling took me to a place 2 years ago. And then it was today where I really, had some time to think about it. And, I did a post on Instagram. But shall we say, it's interesting that this memory in air brackets came up when I have been exploring and sitting in anger, because I remember at the time the memory, and I'm not going to tell you the exact, blow by blow what happened at that period of time in my life. But I will say to you that there was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of sadness. And I wouldn't say I was at a breaking point, but I was acutely aware that I wasn't in my happy-go-lucky normal place and that I needed some space. And, once upon a time I wouldn't have even known what that was. So, the evolution of that has only got better and better, but I will say to you that at that time 2 years ago, yes, there was a lot going on and it was in line with, I was just angry. And the anger for me a lot of the times too is just complete and utter sadness and loss of hope or lack of hope. Yes, loss of hope. No, I don't know, but no hope. there was hope there. It's not that dire, but I will say to you that, yeah, I was feeling the feels, and even now, 2 years later, that's why I took some time to really think about the response, or even posting any type of response to the memory in air brackets. And I didn't actually post it in Facebook. I posted it on my Instagram page, my own personal page, is acknowledging, even in 2 years, how far I've talked. Even then I was talking about a self-discovery, a self-journey, about learning and development, and learning more about myself, and yeah, just living my life how I wanted to, in an authentic way. And even then I was on that journey. I'd started that journey, I think, not at September the 14th, but it was an interesting axis of time where I can confidently say to you now I'm in a very different place. But it's just one of the beautiful things of whoever and whatever you identify with, is that memory came up for me at the same time 2 years later, where I was struggling with anger and feeling angry, and not feeling at the same place, but acknowledging some of the same, echoes of feelings that I've had in the past, and just then really berating myself for even feeling that way, in a way. And then why was I berating myself when I clearly have come and developed so far in just 2 years. And you say that and it's like, fuck, 2 years. But then I was aligning it to a video that I actually watched today on YouTube, someone I watch. And if I remember to self whilst listening back to this podcast, where they talked about, how much their life had changed from 9 years ago. And again, that for me, 9 years ago, I was in a very different place to what I am today. My life in its entirety is in a very different place, not just my thoughts, feelings and emotions and who I am as a person, but yeah, it's like I have. I was going to say I haven't. I lost myself for a long time, and then not knowing, well, just functioning, shall we say. That's probably a better way to describe it. And then, yeah, really going deeper, and then going, well, this is something I actually want to do, as in learning and development on self. And then to where I can honestly stand here, or sit here, as I'm sitting, I'm standing, as I record this podcast today, that, yeah, I'm very proud of myself and the work that I have put in to really sit in some very uncomfortable emotional spaces, often repetitive spaces, to really just understand them, not shy away from them, not ignore them, not bury them as, I would do, but to really go, well, where's this coming from and why do I feel this way, and what is it linked to, and is it nothing or is it everything? So that has been a challenge, I'm not going to lie, for someone like myself who has had, and I have touched on this, multiple mental health episodes in my life, both major depression and anxiety. It's challenging when you are extremely hypersensitive as a person to then allow yourself to explore this thoughts and feelings and all those kind of good shit. Yet so rewarding, so confident building, so enlightening, especially if you just want to, you finally, you've had that click in your mind as to where you might be heading or where you want to head and how you want to make that happen and what you need to do as a person to get to that place you want to. So for me, that is a lot of self-reflection. That is like the last couple of days where I've had to just sit in emotions that make me extremely uncomfortable. And like I said, anger is one that is probably the one emotion that truly does scare the fuck out of me. And I know why or reasons why. Suffice to say that the anger itself was not aligned to something happened many years ago. It was just anger and I needed to explore where that was coming from. So, yeah, it was a kind of a weird synergy when, I saw the video today, I saw the post, and, yeah, just that moment or moments of just letting it just flow through you. And a lot of the videos that I watch in relation to energy and spiritual healers and any type of healer or motivational person or motivational coach along those lines, just letting the ebb and flow of life and things wash over you, obviously exploring them but letting them pass as well and letting go of things. And I've talked about letting go of things so many times on this podcast. You might be tired of it, but no, I'm not. So, yeah, then it brings me to here, this moment where, and I've mentioned this multiple times, where even though for a lot of people, if you listen to this podcast, you would feel uncomfortable talking about, being or being angry, being angry or being angry and what that feels like and what it's connected to, where it really is going back to, that topic of conversation when people come up to me and they go, what's your podcast about? And it really is just about my life, and it's just a person. I'm a person, and I'm really just on the journey of life like all of us, and really at the point now where I know what I want and what I want to do, and just aligning all the things that need to align, and also at the same time just letting it all just play out as well. And I think that's probably the crux of it at the moment, is just letting it all play out and not be so absorbed in trying to control it all. And, yeah, that you, in the end, like Mel Robbins said, you can only control yourself. You can't control others, how they react, what they do, etc. But you can control yourself. So, yeah, I'm in a good place right now. Let me just say, it's not, like I said, it's not dire. But, I will acknowledge that I am extremely uncomfortable in feelings of anger, especially if I feel anger towards people for no reason, because it's a projection, and then working out what that looks like and working through that. So, yeah, I don't know if you're the same. I mean, I'm quite confident to say that I'm sure people have certain emotions and thoughts that they struggle with understanding and then feeling them. For me, like I said, I'm a very hypersensitive person, which I do have moments where I'm like, fuck, I wish I wasn't. Yet it is probably one of the most beautiful traits or pieces of the puzzle that is me as a human being, that makes me the person I am as I sit here today, and gives me the fucking balls to talk about this shit on a podcast that could be listened to anybody in this entire world, universe, outer realms. Who knows? I'm going to play some music and have a quick sip of my drink. I'll be back. Not that one. No, this isn't the Ghost Files. The X Files. No. Oh, X Files. Oh, did they? No, sorry. I got lost my own shit. The X Files. Did they bring out that X Files Lego set yet? Does anyone know? Mate. A little Scully and Mulder in Lego minifig. Come on. I have to have it. Anyway, we're at 30 minutes. I will talk about conditions of use. I really do want to talk about it because I want to actually align it to the human experience, okay? Human relationships. Because I don't know why, and I suppose thinking off the top of my head, the contract of marriage, because it really is a contract. It's an agreement. It's not just words, bye-bye. It's kind of important. Is it conditions of use? No. But I want to explain what conditions of use mean, and then I want to reference that or, ponder to you in terms of human relationships. Because, we all should really ponder our contracts that we have with others. Now, it doesn't have to be a written contract. We can get into that if you want to. Maybe there are people separate to being married that have contracts on how you interact with each other. I don't know. That probably is a thing somewhere. I'm not going that deep or going there in particular contracts. I'm saying, though, it's an interesting concept because, again, the contracts non-written that you have with your family, for example, that you have with your loved ones, that you have with your workplace, and then aligning that in terms of conditions of use and what are you willing to have you read the fine print? Are you willing to take that? Do you agree or disagree? So these are the kind of things that I'm talking about. So first of all, I want to give you an overview of what conditions of use means. So Google, what does conditions of use mean is what I typed in the search engine. This is what it comes up with. Conditions of use refers to the set of legal rules, terms, and guidelines that users must agree to in order to access or use a service, product, or website. These conditions form a binding contract between the provider and the consumer outlining what users can and cannot do, user responsibilities, limitations of the provider's liability, and the consequences for violating the terms. Now, don't tell me that when I read that out and you hear that, and if you need to rewind and play it back, the premise to how this would align to, interpersonal relationships, violating the terms of a personal agreement, outlining what you can or cannot do, or what I can or cannot do to you, the agreement that we have as friends, unwritten, the agreement that we have with our husband, unwritten. Now, it's not on the marriage certificate. It doesn't say what your consequences for violating the terms are. What's that? Divorce. No, I don't know. That's the thing, though. You have your marriage vow. That could be conditions of use. You could align it to that in those terms, maybe. Anyway, what is included in conditions of use? User responsibility, so stipulates what actions users are responsible for, such as maintaining account security or using the service as intended. Now, yes, straight away my mind's like, no, I'm not in any way, shape or form maintaining. Well, I'm sure there is components of this. I'm not saying that I am, in a relationship and as a user responsibility, I'm stipulating that to maintain this relationship, you give me service as intended. That's an interesting play. I don't know, maybe. Prohibited actions list behaviours that are not allowed. Protecting the service and other users from misuse. Mate, if we would just want to frame this in the terms of a marriage, maybe if that makes it simpler for you to understand. Now, I wouldn't be surprised. I know, what's the movie? What's that movie? The sex movie. That's a bit broad. 50 Shades of Grey. Thank you. Is that conditions of use? Is that what we're talking about? Intellectual property. Explains who owns the content, trademarks, and copyrights associated with the service or product. Intellectual property. Obviously, we're talking about conditions of use. We're talking about an item. So, I don't know. We're talking about a website. I know we're talking about an idea. I don't know. In everyday mechanics of relationships with others, shall we frame intellectual property? So, your thoughts and feelings and your emotions are your own. Vanessa. That was weird. I don't know any Vanessa, so that's why I came up with that name. No Vanessas in my life. That's why I said Vanessa. Just so you know. Vanessa wants to be you. It's weird. Therefore, she violates your intellectual property. Yeah, look, that's another podcast for another day. Intellectual property. I'm just calling it right now. Disclaimers and liability limitations. Limits the provider's legal responsibility for issues that may arise, such as data breaches or inaccuracies. Privacy policies addresses how user data is handled. That's a good one. Account management, people management, personal people management. You are in control. What are your conditions of use? This is the thing. How do you interact with others? What is your account management? You can apply this to the human experience. Don't tell me you can't. Changes to the term states that the provider can amend the conditions and how users will be notified. What? Notify yourself in a letter that, fuck, you need to get your shit done. Does that? Goes fast. No. Why are conditions of use important? Let's talk about it. Legal protection. Conditions of use are legally binding documents that protect the service provider from lawsuits and potential liabilities. User compliance, they set clear expectations for users, ensuring they understand their rights and obligations when engaging with the service. Sorry, I was thinking about the sex trade, but anyway. Service integrity by outlining rules of conduct, that is not conduct. These could be conduct. These conditions help maintain the integrity and safe operation of the service or product, and business continuity. Can't speak. They are crucial for managing risks and preventing problems, ensuring the business can operate effectively. Don't tell me you can't align this shit to the human experience. And that's why I want to talk about it today, because I don't know about you, but I'm going to talk about me. Okay? And then I'd love to know if you feel the same way or you don't. So let's just say I'm at a party. I go to a party, I meet with a group of people for the very first time. I've never met them before. I know Vanessa, my new friend, apparently, I've just created. She takes me to said party, and like I said, I don't know anyone there except Vanessa, and she introduced me to a whole plethora of people, shall we say. Now, they don't know me, I don't know them. Conditions of use. What am I willing to share with these people unconditionally? Do I need to create a verbal, non-verbal, binding document type, a mental type, so that I don't, for example, just spill all my life to them, emotionally dump all my shit on Vanessa and all her friends at the party, to the point where they'd be like, Amanda, you're whack. We don't want to know you and we're scared and goodbye. This is the thing. When you're going, you meet someone for the first time, you're not, that comes down to things that I've talked about before, because I honestly don't think, I'm sure there is people who are completely 100% genuine, but for all intents and purposes is what I'm trying to spit out. Most people, I would say to you confidently, they would portray themselves in a certain, or reflect themselves in a certain light. Why? Because most people don't want to just give the game away. They might have their own issues. There's a whole range of the reasons why people just don't be their genuine true self. It's a protection mechanism, I would probably say, would be probably one of the highest rating subjects under that. In saying that, though, once you've done the dance, once you've gone through the bullshit and you get to know each other, and that, where is that line where there is that conditions of use in that, say, like just in just using the friendship relationship as one example, where is there, or do you acknowledge, a time when you've said to your best friend, Vanessa, who's not my best friend, but she is for the all intents and purposes of this podcast, said, I will not be spoken to that way. Do never speak to me that way in regards to A, B, and C, as an example, right? These kind of things may or may never come up at all, or they may only come up when there's conflict, okay? What if I was to say to you that perhaps relationships might be broader, more fulfilling, more deeper, more authentic, if we did treat, in our psyche, our own conditions of use, but be more transparent on what they are, and that's, when that leads to, a person who's very open and genuine about their feelings, etc., and what their boundaries are. That's what it leads into, doesn't it? What their boundaries are and what they want or they don't want, etc., out of, your relationship with Vanessa. That's something I'm learning, clearly. Side note, clearly I'm still learning. But it's just a topic that I've never really framed it as that myself, and thought that if I was to say, why aren't we teaching these types of skills to our children? I mean, there might be some parents who do. I can't give my example of my parents who did that. But, yeah, why aren't we teaching these, I'm not going to say semantics. That's not really the word I was looking for. Why aren't we exploring these topics of conversation? Why aren't we teaching this? Why aren't we having more open discussions around this in school or at home, or yeah, even in the workplace? We could use the workplace, but I'm not going to because my thoughts and feelings around that. We're not going to do that because that's dangerous ground. Well, no, we're not going there. Yeah, why aren't we taking a step back and, really not just, creating a fake narrative. You're in a relationship then, and then whoever that may be, may that be, your partner, your brother, all of the above, right? All those interpersonal relationships that people have. Why aren't we having more of these conversations around what our conditions of use are, what our boundaries are, what do we agree to and what we don't agree to. Instead of getting to the point where I know the shit hits the fan and then you're like, fuck you, fuck off. Yeah, I don't know if it has to be as legally binding as a legally binding terms and conditions. And then it's an interesting segue into marriage and what that means in regards to your marriage vow. And, then that opens a big door because that then ties into religion and, all that. That could take a long time. But that's the thing. I've never really framed it that way in my mind in regards to a relationship where I suppose a lot of this then comes down I don't know, because I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, which I've told you, that perhaps these kind of mechanisms in the mind is all subconscious, and therefore that's why we don't bring it up into the surface or into the conscious, because we don't want to block the ebb and flow of shit, or we're too scared to, or we don't, there needs to be a level of vulnerability to then create, the starting point of a relationship. Therefore, we do let our own, in air brackets, conditions of use, we park it in our mind somewhere until it comes to a head somewhere else. I just, to me, I don't know what that looks like because I've never really thought as, if I was to say these thoughts and feelings, why aren't they proposed, or why aren't they and they might be, so I could be completely off the mark here. Why aren't these concepts of human interpersonal relationships in regards to our own conditions of what we want and don't want for ourselves and for others, why aren't we more open and broad to these types of conversations? Are we that insecure that we just can't go there because we're that afraid to be our genuine selves from the start, not when we're already intertwined? This is the thing. It's interesting to me because I'd often think that out loud. I'm thinking, wouldn't the bond be greater and the relationship be more enhanced and in the end more fulfilling a human experience if we were just genuine and explained, not just, metaphorically, but actually had those open-hearted conversations with people that we want to get to know, or even, moving into the people that we love, what our conditions are as a person, what we want from the relationship, how we want to be treated, these kind of things. I don't know why. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think we're having these types of conversations early enough, for children who, and this is the thing, I suppose it comes into where, well, children are children and do they need to actually go through all this? But, children become young adults and then they become adults and then they become 52-year-old women. And this is the thing, if it's a conversation that was, broader and explored a lot earlier in the life cycle of a person, perhaps it would make them more genuine and more, just more well-rounded as a person, shall we say, if they firstly understood what their conditions were, because that's a challenge in themselves, in itself, I should say. That's number one. But then to have that interaction with someone else and then align it to all the different types of interpersonal relationships that people have. So I'm not just talking about family, but I'm talking about work. Could it be as simple as, let's not go deep, but, you're not going to give your binding thoughts and feelings about how you want to be, how you want to interact to the lady who's packing your shopping. I don't think so. But, what is important to you? That relationship, even though Breeze and quite important because you don't want her to fucking break all the eggs that you've just bought that cost a shit ton of money, that, you might want to be more forthcoming in regards to how you want things to be packed. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just curious as to why, in my opinion, why we aren't more upfront about something that seems so logical but seems so difficult at the same time. And perhaps, like I said, it could be just a Amanda thing. I don't think it is. But, yeah, it's just an interesting idea or conversation to me because I know now, like I said, I'm 52 and, I will say to you there is now where there's that level of authenticity in regards to, and it does again, it aligns to what my for use of a better word, my life path is, that I don't want to live in the land of bullshit anymore. And no, I'm not always or have been living in the land of bullshit, fairies and unicorns. I'm very acutely aware. Yet in saying that, I would say to you hand on heart, I haven't divulged to, key people in my world, in my life, well, this is what my terms of conditions are, what my conditions of use are. This is what I want. This is how I will behave. I mean, this is the problem then, because then, you can say I want you to be this way, but you can't control other people. So this is where it gets complicated. But you can certainly discuss your own conditions of use in reference to how you want to be treated, how you want to be spoken to, how you want to, I don't know, even to how you want to be loved, how you want to be seen, how you want to be heard. Yeah, all that, all that and so much more. So this is a thing, it's funny when I then lead it back to, conditions of use and terms and conditions. Okay, we know that. Apple's a good example. When you have your phone, your mobile phone, and you have an update, so update to, 26, 16? Are we up to 26? I think we're up to 26, where, before you update, you have to agree to the terms and conditions. Now, Apple, in their wisdom, this is the thing. Please, I'd love to know. In that scenario, in like the mobile phone scenario, because that's probably a good one to reference or preface this to, who the fuck is reading the terms and conditions or conditions of use? Who's reading that legal binding document, as in where your data's stored, how the data's used? Oh my God, I don't even know what's in the terms and conditions because I don't even read them. Hand on heart, I don't read them. They're so long and so arduous. Who's reading them? But this is the thing though, where in the whole flow of things did we go, not reading that. Who cares? And I suppose then it leads into the weight of the relationship, doesn't it? In that sense, in that terms, in reference to your mobile phone. I mean, yes, I'm sure. I am 100% sure that there's people who do take the time to read the terms and conditions and then you click agree and then you've agreed, Just having a quick sip of my drink, by the way. But I would propose to you the majority of people do not read the terms and conditions or conditions of use. When your phone has an update or tells you it needs to be updated. And when did we become comfortable with that? When we go, oh, this is too hard, so hard reading a fucking document. this is the thing, because it's just in, foreign terms that no normal human being can understand, so therefore we just like, fuck it. I'm sure it's fine. In the meantime, Apple's, resourcing your Siri data to IBM. I don't know. I'm not saying anything. What I'm saying, though, is when did we say that this is okay? When did we say this was okay? Any financial contract, great example. Any financial contract that you have, may it be your home loan, may it be a credit card. Now, that's a good one. Your credit card, any type of loan, all right, financial loan where you borrow money, okay, it's a legal binding document. Who reads it all in its very existence? Now, there is some people who do. I would propose to you that most people do not. Right now in the world, we are now at a place, even more importantly, where fucking money is tight, bitch. Okay? I can say to you that I'm very grateful. I am very grateful that I do have a steady income. I do have an excellent income, actually, for what I do and who I'm employed by. And I am very grateful that I work, clearly, and I work to the best of my abilities. I will say to you that in this financial landscape that is now 2025 and now just moving forward at a very, very fucking rapid pace, more and more people in that example of a binding agreement, they just need help, mate. And you can't tell me that reading the fucking terms and conditions is probably the last motherfucking thing that they give a shit about. They just need the money, right? Yes, I'm not saying there's not people who don't. And I very much, in that instance, would recommend that you read the terms and conditions. But I would say to you and propose to you that a lot of people just don't, because A, it's written in jargon that they don't understand. And that's always been the way. Always been the way. If that's the case, then get someone who does understand and can read it to you and explain it to you. The fact that it's so long-winded and has so many contingencies that most people wouldn't grasp in the lifetime of a loan, in that example, in their brackets. They're just, and like I said, now in this current financial environment, they just, and this is the thing though, when did we just say that that's okay? When did we give our life away? Because really, let's be honest, in these contracts that we create with companies, it's more often where, you're giving away your firstborn, but it could be one day. Could be. That, you're agreeing to shit that you don't even realise that you're fucking agreeing to terms and conditions that you have no idea about, and then before you know it, you're pushing shit uphill. Or, God forbid, something happens to you and, your next of kin or someone else has to deal with your shit. So, it's just some interesting food for thought in regards to conditions of use. But I really did want to tie it back into the human experience, because for me, I want to say that I really am doing my best. And look, and again, I do need to give myself, I'm saying it out loud on this podcast, I do need to give myself some patience and just, stop trying to hold on so tightly for dear life sometimes. That, I want to be my authentic self. Yes, I've talked about this where, time and place, sometimes you do need to narrate who you are as a person in line with the time and place. And this is the thing, I don't want to do that either. And I don't think that you should have to. And more, once upon a time in a far, far land away. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? In a far, far land that yeah, once upon a time, and I know I would probably say to you in regards to my a part of my upbringing where you did, narrate yourself in certain situations because that's what you did. Never questioning that. Oh, that's my phone, by the way. Never questioning that, losing sense of self and not being your most genuine self is really crushing your human experience in its entirety, if that's what you give a shit about, which I do. It's not something I really in-depth questioned to a later time in my life. And now I'm at a place where I don't want the bullshit anymore. I don't want to be bullshit. I don't want to pretend or narrate myself anymore. Yes, there's a level of professionalism, and I'm very aware of that, especially in certain circumstances. But especially in regards to personal relationships, with your husband or your parents, etc., there should be no narration of self, because you should be comfortable with being your genuine self. And for me, where I'm saying now quite openly that, not that I haven't been completely ingenuous, but I would say to you that I have been not my true self, because there became a point where I basically lost myself and I didn't know who I was as a person and who I wanted to be, and just to sit in that and then, just walk through the parlours of life and so beautiful. Well, come up with this bullshit. No, it's not bullshit. This is a thing where, and it ties into, is it an age thing where you just do get to a place where, sorry, I'm just going to get rid of this message that's now deciding to haunt me in the background. That, yeah, it's very likely a place in time separate to any self-development that I've been working on in the past couple of years, where you just do get to a place in your life where you just get over it. You get over the fakeness and the bullshit of everything and that interaction, and then you finally get to a place. But like I said, conditions of use in terms of how you interact with others, how you want others to interact with you. Why are we waiting for conflict or misunderstanding or pressure points or, I don't know, I'm thinking in terms of negativity, but that don't even have to be, really, when you think about it. I don't know why we're just not more upfront, and then, a question as to why I'm not more upfront as to what I want, what I need as a person, how I want to be treated, and all those kind of great things or very good things that then all do circle nicely in regards to your conditions of use. Mic drop. And that's it. No, I think it's just an interesting topic. I've never really thought about it in that term before in regards to interpersonal relationships, but I just, yeah, I don't. Maybe it's something comes down to, because look, as a parent, who's equipped? Who is equipped? Even if you're a fucking psychologist or psychiatrist, as a parent, still, are you equipped to give this kind of narration to your children or have open conversations about these kind of things so that your child has more of an understanding of what their own personal boundaries are prior to becoming a 52-year-old woman? This is the thing. I don't know then how that would work in reference to, is it something that, as an example, and I don't know, they might have this right now in private school. I can't imagine that have it in public, but I could just be bullshitting. I don't know. Why aren't we having conversations about, sense of self and psychology and, personality, like all that? Why aren't we having these conversations? Why aren't we having discussions and perhaps offering a skill set that people could at least spark a conversation in a young mind to go, well, maybe this is the direction that I want to take as a human being. No, I don't need to know the whole picture now, but it sparks a moment, an idea, an ideal that, you know, can only lead to good things in the end, where it's just creating an open dialogue about, you know, things that will inevitably come up in a person's life as they grow older. I don't know why we aren't having, you know, a course at school. I don't know. Am I proposing completely outside the box here? But, you know, we're happy to do all this. You know, there's obviously the subjects that we learn at school and primary school and high school are extremely important. I'm not saying that, but where is, you know, the human piece in all of this that could be taught? And this is the thing, maybe because it's so broad and then it's a narrative that only is one person's narrative where it could get complicated. I don't know. I just think that we need to be having conversations earlier in our lives. And then I think for someone like myself where, you know, I'm hand on heart happy to say that I'm still learning this. And perhaps this is, again, one of those topics that I will need to learn and work on for quite some time. I could probably say to you that is accurate. And that's okay. And, you know, I don't need to work it out right now on this entire podcast episode. Yet I will say to you that, yeah, I'd really, you know, if I'm talking to you in my everyday life, if you listen to this podcast, and even if I propose to you, you know, off the back of listening to this podcast, having a conversation with someone and then maybe proposing the question is, if we were to have a legal document together, what are some of the things that you would feel would be important that should be discussed? And, you know, if they're broken, this is how it could hurt me, or this could potentially damage, or this could hurt. You know what I mean? I don't think we frame our relationships this way. I'm sure there is somewhere in the ether because there's so many dynamics of human relationships. But, yeah, I would just implore you to do that, and I will implore to do that myself actually because, like I said, I am very conscious of pulling down the mask, of being authentic, cutting out the bullshit. If I've got something to say it. If I've got something to feel it. If I've got something to work through, I will work through it. And, yeah, I look forward to, seeing what comes out of this. Look, again, if that's something and these kind of conversations that you are interested in having with, you know, your loved one, your workmates, your children, your partner, etc., or if you'd like to have that conversation with me, you can segue anytime by contacting me via my email address being info@thetequilahour.com.au. So, a couple of things, bit of admin on the back end of this podcast. I am trialing releasing this podcast or podcast episode every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which by my calculation is morning over in America, pretty much where most of my listeners listen to this podcast. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to give it a set period of time. If I don't see any change or uplift, I could likely go back to what I was doing before. I'm not quite sure. I'm trying new things. Ideally, moving forward, I would like to do 2 podcasts a week, so being Tuesday and Thursday. I know that I will need to plan for that, so I don't know what that looks like, and I'm not committing to anything right now, but I do know what that would look like and what that would involve, so I really do need to think about that. And, yeah, like I said, if you've got any feedback or there is something you'd like me to talk about, let me know. And finally, you would know that I'm how many years in? And I still haven't had a guest. I thought I was going to I thought about it when I was over in Bali of asking Samantha or Angelica about being on my podcast. And then I decided against it. I think, one, because I was, I was scared. I'll just cut the shit. I was scared of rejection, that they would say no, even though I never asked them. So this is the thing. I still do want to get to a place where I think for me, have at least a guest once a month. And for me, that would also look, sorry, I'm like, what's that noise? There's dogs outside the window. That would also look like having, it recorded in a studio setting, as in camera, audio, visual. That's what I don't know what I'm trying to say. So yes, again, that's something where I have discussed this is it for me. So I do need to really get my shit tight on what I want this to look like. So if you've got any suggestions or any ideas or any feedback, as always, like I said, you can contact me anytime. You can reach out via my pages on Instagram. So the Tequila Hour is the Instagram page, and I also have my personal page being the_1_Amanda. Both linked. Too easy. Just get on it. Get on it. And corresponding YouTube channels as well, which I don't use. I don't even know why they're there, but I'll explore that another time. Anyway, as always, thank you to those who do listen. I'm truly grateful. Take care. Enjoy. Have a great week. And I'll catch up with you next time. See ya. Bye.